Hi all, myself Megha, Assistant Professor, Department of Civil Engineering, Vedavyasa Institute of Technology. Today I am going to discuss about Environmental Impact Assessment. Environmental Impact Assessment is actually a planning tool that is used for identifying, predicting and communicating information about the environmental effects of a proposal. So let's see the purpose of EIA. When a new project starts in an area, it will disturb the environmental equilibrium. So EIA is necessary to know whether the project should be started or not. Also, to maintain the quality of environment, it is necessary to study the impacts of the project on the environment. EIA also suggests remedial measures for the pollution caused by the project. Thereby, we can implement pollution control methods along with the project. The opinion of public is considered for conducting EIA so that the decision taken about the commencement of new project will be more environmental friendly. So let's see the benefits of EIA. EIA potentially screens out environmentally unsound projects. It proposes modified designs to reduce environmental impact. It identifies feasible alternatives. It predicts significant adverse impact. It identifies mitigation measures to reduce or eliminate major impacts. It engages and informs potentially affected communities and individuals. Now, let's see the evolution of EIA. The concept of EIA was first introduced in USA through its National Environmental Protection Act of 1969. Canada, Australia, Netherlands and Japan adopted EIA legislation in 1973, 1974, 1981 and 1984 respectively. In July 1985, the European Community issued a directive making environmental assessment mandatory for certain categories of project. In Asia and the Pacific region, Thailand and the Philippines have long established procedures for EIA. Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia implemented EIA in 1975, 1978, 1987 respectively. EIA was made mandatory in Sri Lanka in 1984. The EIA process in Africa is sketchy, although a number of nations including Rwanda, Botswana and Sudan have some experience of EIA. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development issued recommendations on EIA to its constituent states in 1974 and 1979 and for development aid projects in 1986. OECD issued guidelines for good practices in EIA in 1992. United Nations Environmental Programme UNEP in 1980 provided guidance on EIA for the development proposals and supported research on EIA in developing countries. UNEP in 1987 set out goals and principles of EIA for the member countries and provided guidance on basic procedures for EIA in 1988. The World Conservation Strategy pinpointed the need to integrate environmental considerations with development in 1980. EIA became an integral part of World Bank policy in 1987. Asian Development Bank in 1990 published guidelines for EIA importance. The Government of India enacted the Environment Act on 23rd May 1986. To achieve the objectives of the Act, one of the decisions taken was to make EIA statutory. After following the legal procedure, a notification was issued on 27th January 1994. The Environmental Impact Assessment revised EIA notification was published in September 2006. Besides this, the Government of India under Environment Act 1986 issued a number of notifications in between. Now let's see the steps in EIA process. Actually, in EIA process, there are 15 stages, which are project screening, scoping, consideration of alternatives, description of the project or development action, description of the environmental baseline, identification of key impact, the prediction of impact, evaluation and assessment of significance, mitigation, public consultation and participation, EIS presentation, review, decision making, post-decision monitoring and auditing. Project screening. Screening often results in a categorization of the project, and from this a decision is made on whether or not a full EIA is to be carried out. Scoping. It is the process of determining which are the most critical issues to study and will involve community participation to some degree. It is at this early stage that EIA can most strongly influence the outline proposal. Consideration of alternatives. This seeks to ensure that the proponent has considered other feasible approaches, including alternative project location, scales, layout, operating conditions, etc. Description of the project or development action. This step seeks to clarify the purpose and rationale of the project and understand its various characteristics, including the stages of development, location and processes. Description of the environmental baseline. This includes the establishment of both the present and future state of the environment in the absence of the project, taking into account the changes resulting from natural events and from other human activities. Identification of key impact. This brings together the previous steps with a view to ensuring that all potentially significant environmental impact are identified and taken into account in the process. The prediction of impact. This step aims to identify the likely magnitude of the change in the environment when the project is implemented in comparison with the situation when the project is not carried out. Evaluation and assessment of significance. This seeks to assess the relative significance of the predicted impact to allow a focus on key adverse impact. Significance equal to consequence into likelihood. Mitigation. This involves the introduction of measures to avoid, reduce, remedy or compensate for any significant adverse impacts. Public consultation and participation. This aims to assure the quality and effectiveness of the EIA as well as to ensure that the public's views are adequately taken into consideration in the decision-making process. EIS presentation. This is a vital step in the EIA process. If done badly, much good work in the EIA may be negated. Review. This involves a systematic appraisal of the quality of the EIS as a contribution to the decision-making process. Decision-making. At this stage, decisions are made by the relevant authority of the EIS together with other material considerations as to whether to accept, defer or reject the project. Post-decision monitoring. This involves the recording of outcomes associated with the development impact after the decision to proceed with the project. It can contribute to effective project management. Auditing. This is the last step in EIA process. This follows monitoring and involves comparing actual outcomes with the predicted outcomes and can be used to assess the quality of predictions and the effectiveness of mitigation. It provides a vital step in the EIA learning process. So, this is all about EIA. Thank you for watching.